Welcome to another inspiring episode of the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. Hosts Melanie Johnson and Jen Foster are the owners of Elite Online Publishing. They're both Wall Street Journal, USA Today bestselling authors. We're really glad you're here because this podcast was designed for you. Meet industry experts that share their secrets and strategies. Get successful results for your business in money, relationships, health, and your life. Each episode is going to inspire you to take action towards reaching your greatness.
Hey everyone, it's Melanie Johnson with another great podcast for you today. I hope you're ready to be motivated, inspired, educated. And I have my business partner at Elite Online Publishing, Jenn Foster, with me.
Hey everyone, how's it going today?
I think it's going to be a fabulous week. We want to get you motivated here. All right. I don't know if any of you see these videos or reels on TikTok, Instagram, even YouTube about how to make money selling things on Amazon. And I've tried to figure this out. Jen and I tried to figure this out before. I have a son that tried to figure this. We have a guru expert with us today. Not only does she teach people how to do this and do it extremely well and get success, she also brought an interesting point in the green room of sometimes people hit once they get there, what's next? Okay, I've got my success. Now, how do I keep growing? Because we all want to keep growing. If you're not growing, you're really dying. So how to figure out what the next steps for are you in your life and your business. So we have this two different conversations we're going to have today, but we decided to bring them both together for you. So if you want to know about either of these things, you are in the right place. So we have Kirsty Verity with us today, and she's coming all the way from Montreal, Canada. Welcome, Kirsty. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, tell us, Kirsty, a little bit of your journey of how you got to this place of coaching for Amazon and marketing and sales.
Yeah, as we were chatting before, I was actually in I guess it's usual track of being in a corporate role. And I'd been doing that for nearly 20 years, actually, in marketing. I used to work on brands like Pedigree dog food, Whiskers, Durex condoms, Aquafresh toothpaste, Sensodyne toothpaste. So quite in a different range of stuff. But really, the process is the same, right? And so what you're doing is really understanding the ideal client and then providing great products and great marketing for those. But I got to this point where as you get what you want and you don't want it anymore, right? So I was climbing the ladder. And the problem with that was that I was almost like the cool stuff that I used to do. My team were doing that, the fun stuff. And then I was just hitting that kind of square peg, round hole scenario where I just wanted to change everything and shake everything up. But I guess the corporate dudes didn't really want that, right? And so I just felt like I remember being in a boardroom being thoroughly bored and actually literally going, okay, I need to do something different. Do you remember Ally McBeal? Do you remember that show?
Yes.
Yeah, that show.
I just kind of had this like out of body experience where I became a ballerina. I was just like dancing around the room going, I don't care anymore. I need to do something different. So I started to think about, okay, what can I do? And so I really was looking for a system or like a step-by-step for a different business model. I tried lots of different things. I tried real estate, like flipping houses, tried it. I bought a course on it. But then I quickly realized I didn't really have the capital available to really do it properly. I did eBay selling. So that was getting products from Alibaba, selling on eBay. And it worked, but I needed warehousing. I needed all this kind of infrastructure to make that work. And I was in Australia at the time as well. And we've only got 21 million people in Australia. It's not like a massive market. And then I also then thought, okay, share trading. I had no interest in that whatsoever. So I thought, nah, that's not going to work. What these models really taught me was what I was interested in, what I really needed in terms of capital or I needed in terms of skill set. And I also then started to think about what do I want my life to look like? And so I read The 4-Hour Workweek, which I'm sure a lot of people have read.
Yes, and that's a great book.
That was a real eye-opener for me because it was really a case of, okay, maybe I can actually just design the life I want because that's really what I was aspiring to, right? It wasn't really the money. I was aspiring to the lifestyle. And I'm a big traveler. I love travel. I was originally from England, lived in Australia, and I actually traveled around Australia for a year before I settled there. And I also traveled around Southeast Asia and I traveled in South America. So it was a really big passion of mine. And so I was like, okay, I want something that allows me to do that from anywhere in the world. And so I started to then look at pure e-commerce online stuff. And I then tried websites. So I was like, okay, maybe I can do affiliate marketing, which is a ClickBank type product.
Yeah.
So I started to set up like 4 different types of websites, But the problem with that was that, yes, I didn't have any capital up front, but I needed to then drive the traffic. I needed to basically put a lot of money into marketing that I had no idea about. And then just being on all these different things, you know what it's like, you get on people's lists. And then this thing landed in my inbox about selling on Amazon. And I was like, okay, this was like 2013. And it just, everything that I'd learned, everything that didn't work, but everything that worked in my other models, I guess, was solved by the Amazon model. Physical products. So that was also my background. I really have a problem dealing with manufacturers because that's what I used to do. Branding, I was like, yeah, I know how to do that. Also, things like the marketing and everything, Amazon was doing all that. And also all the warehousing and infrastructure was dealt with by Amazon. It just seemed like the perfect thing. So I was so sure of it that I went to my HR director and I was like, okay, I'm over it. I'm ready. They were looking for me to like move to Singapore or something like that. It was part of the ascension. And I was like, you know what? I'll save you some money. How about if I leave, but then you've got these roles here and you can take my role and amalgamate it into these other roles and you'll save money, but I want a payout. And so they were like, okay, let's do that. So then I got a nice kind of cushion, I guess, for about a year's pay where I was like, great, I've got a little bit of backing and I'm just going to do this no matter what. And then I thought, why don't I just try the lifestyle? So I moved to Bali and I was like, I'm going to live in Bali. It's cheaper than living in Sydney. And I'm going to do the travel bit and I'm just going to see if it works out. And that's what happened. I gave myself a goal of, I want to get $10,000 a month in revenue before I'm allowed to go back to Australia. So that was my kind of first goal. And I did that in 3 months. And then when I moved back, I moved back to Australia. And then I just, I guess, took what I'd learned in my corporate days, you know, putting a forecast together, doing some planning work. And then I was like, you know what, if I did, this is one product. If I did this with 4 products, that would be $1 million business. Everything worked out the same way as what this one product did. And so that's what I did. I put this plan together and said, I didn't know what products I was going to sell, but I was doing it under a brand. And that was the biggest thing for me. I was like, I want to make this thing simple, not complex. And also I want to grow a brand. Like that was my plan. And so I just figured out, okay, I'm going to launch 4 more products. And my goal was $100,000 in revenue a month. And that's what happened. So within 10 months, I'd actually achieved that goal. And the interesting thing was a year before that, I'd put this like vision board thing together and I'd had a big world on there. I was like, I'm going to follow the sun around the world and I'm going to fly business class everywhere. And I'm going to do all these things, right? And sit on the beach with my laptop and stuff. And I'd achieved all of that in 10 months. But when I actually put the vision board together, I had no clue how I was going to do it, right? I guess it was that combination of strong vision for myself and just allowing the thing to fall into my lap to then have the knowing that's what I should do. So that's how I ended up on Amazon.
So how do you, if someone's just starting, how do they even pick a product? So there's picking a product and knowing how to position it, which you're really an expert at, of, you know, how to have the right keywords and how to say it and how to position it right. How do you start? Give me like, I'm just coming to you and, all right, Kirsty, I want to pick a product. I have no idea how to do it. And then walk me through the secrets of putting a listing together. That's really fun.
So really what I would say is, and this is kind of a mindset thing. That's what most people think, right? I want to pick a product. Okay, you can pick a product, but the problem with that is that the product is the only thing that you're thinking about, right? So what I've seen over the years and coaching people is they get so hung up on what the product is. And so what I want to do is help people step back from that and say, what do you actually want to build? Who do you want to serve first? What problems do you want to solve? What do you want to get up in the morning and be excited about? Otherwise, you'll get further down this track and you'll get to a point where you won't care anymore. It's just grind. And so that's where we start first. And that's what I did. Is at that time, I was like, I actually really love fitness and I was really into CrossFit. And so I was like, yeah, I can talk about that. I know I'm passionate about it. And then I'm going to build a set of products around the brand. And so what I say is, number one is fall in love with the person and the brand first. And then the products are just the way that you actually navigate within the brand. And what that really helps with is that you say if one product isn't working out the way that you want it to, I always say, your products are not your children. All right. We want to get rid of them and we want to easily bring a new product in. So number one is the brand. Then number two is then, okay, what could be some awesome products, right, that this person would want? What kind of problems are we solving? And so that narrows down the search, right? Amazon's massive. And again, this is where a lot of people get stuck, is that they just go for either the fad stuff, the fad product, or they go for things that people have told them that is great, or they just go with something that they go, oh, I would really like that thing. Now, the great thing on Amazon is there's so much data, right? So you can literally research the heck out of something and have the exact data you need to be able to make really good decisions numbers wise. And so that's what we also help people with, is we call it our product analyzer Bible. But basically it's like this big spreadsheet that we're looking at all the parameters that we know can trip people up along the journey. So usually some people might be like, this sells a lot, so I'm going to sell that thing. Well, that's good, but what we really want to know is, number one, how much profit will it make you? But not just gross profit, like i.e. not just after cost of goods and FBA fees, which is fulfilled by Amazon fees. We also want to know how much it's going to cost in terms of your advertising costs as well. And so a big way to get traffic through Amazon's platform itself is not only to rank the products up on page one, keywords, like you said, it's also to get lots of visibility all over the Amazon platform. And so we actually have an advertising platform themselves. Now, if you don't know what you're doing on there, it can be a disaster, because you can spend all this money and you're not actually either getting seen, or maybe the keywords are wrong. So some people just put random stuff up there, or your listing is not great and it's not talking to the ideal client. And so all this money can be spent on ads, which then means that it eats all your profit, and actually you can go into a negative situation, which is where a lot of people do. So what we're doing is we're getting very clear up front. This is the product. This is how much market share do we expect to take? How much profit are you going to make gross? And then what are the main keywords that you need to be bidding on Amazon sponsored ads? Then the other thing we're looking at is, what's the sell through? You could have a great product that makes 50% margin, but if you're only selling one a week, then your cash is going to be tied up in a lot of product, right? And so we call that working capital. Main focus is on cash flow, how quickly the cash flow is actually flowing back through the business. And that can trip a lot of people up. And then also stock management. So when do you actually need to reorder stock? Because a big problem is that if you run out of stock, you have to put all that investment all back in again, because you lose your ranking. And so it's like this kind of stacking effect where you're just like burning money, basically. Those are the kind of core parameters that we're looking at. And the great news is all this data is readily available either through apps like, there's an app that we really use, is called Jungle Scout, which gives you basically a fairly good estimation of what the volume is of every product on Amazon. And you can also look backwards to see trends. So if you're launching in December, for instance, the sales are going to be way higher than like in March. So if you're doing your research in December, you can get like a skewed view of what's happening. That's an obvious one. But there's also another thing I would say is, don't go for seasonal products unless you're very experienced, because you'll just end up with a seasonal business and then no cash flow in the second half of the year or whatever.
And I've heard of a lot of entrepreneurs that do that, where they're selling in the kiosks and the malls, but only at Christmas. And then they have nothing to do the rest of the year. It's like they gotta come up with a different product line. I love how you said you start with the person, because a lot of times people will, like you said, they'll just pick a product like, oh, wooden salt and pepper shakers are selling like crazy, so I'm going to do those. But then like you said, you wake up one morning and you're not excited about selling salt and pepper shakers. Because you're not having interest in food or whatever. So I love that you start with the person and then the target market, and then answer the problems that they have and find the product that you're passionate about. I like that. Yeah.
And another great practical thing about that is that you're doing one thing, you're only doing it once. So what I mean by that is, you've got one logo, you've got one ideal client that you really want to fall in love with. So when you come to actually launching more products, it's a lot more intuitive about what kind of products that you actually want to look at, as well as then how do you put a great listing together? Because that's another key component of being successful, especially on Amazon. So the one big thing that we spend a lot of time with people on is, what is that listing going to look like? And we want to really target it towards one specific person and not try and make it about everything. For instance, my first product was a jump rope, a CrossFit jump rope. And I did it specifically for CrossFitters. And one thing that CrossFitters want to do is a thing called a double under, which is you basically turn the rope twice, but you're just jumping once. It's a bit of a status thing. And so the product itself, I called it a WOD whipper, because the WOD is the workout of the day for CrossFitters. And also this thing was like it's almost like a cable. So if you didn't do it properly, it would whip your legs. And they actually loved that. It was like a rite of passage. They'd always talk about how many slashes they'd done to themselves. And the listing was really all about whipping your WODs and doing double unders and all this stuff. Now, I did get people outside of CrossFit buying the rope because they had an aspiration to be that type of person, but they weren't doing it at that point in time. Whereas some other people that I'd met that were selling the same product that weren't getting any sales, they were targeting, oh, do you want to lose weight? Or do you want to learn skipping? Or all these things. And it was just a generic blah, right? And people are just like, don't know about that one. This one looks more expert, so I'm going to go to this one. So that's what I mean. And it can freak people out because they think, no, but all the keywords are over here. And I want to sell to everyone. When you sell to everybody, you're not selling to anybody. And so that's a real advantage when you just focus on one person, and then you can focus on the main benefits of what the product is and not the features. So by that, a feature might be that you can twist this thing like so much of a second, right? But what does that actually mean to people? Really, the benefit of that is you can do double unders like a pro without any practice. Or you can do double unders like a pro in a week or something like that. That's the benefit.
The phrase,
yeah. And so that's another key thing is focus on it. Take the feature of what the product is and say, how is this actually going to help someone? And then that becomes the core marketing message and not the feature of the product itself. So on Amazon, you have 5 bullet points. So one thing that we tell people is nail the 5 core benefits of what your product does for people, what problem it's solving. And then take those 5 core benefits and translate that into an image rather than just doing, for people that are on the video, right? So you've got a scrunchie. You know, what a lot of people do is they go image 2.
Stretch it out for the image 2.
Then you might see one on the back of the head in a ponytail or something. But that's literally all they'll do with this thing, right? And so what we're looking at is like, how many ways can you use this? And what benefit is that? You're going to look amazing when you go to, I don't know, a party or something, right? Stand out in a crowd or whatever that thing is and show someone actually in that setting of the aspiration of where that customer wants to be, as opposed to just different sides of the same thing.
So it's more of telling the story. So you're not just taking product shots with a light, you're actually having it having the person using it. The picture is telling the story of how this will benefit you. I love that.
Yeah, totally. And like you say, a really good way of doing it is to do a storyboard for a designer, for instance. So you want to be clear on what the benefits are, then you can tell a story. And then you can say, I want image 1 to be this, image 2 to be this, and be very, like we call it, it's having one benefit per image rather than trying to cram out other core things into one image, which is another thing that a lot of people do as well. And we're looking at 30% at least conversion on Amazon. Wow. So can you imagine? Yeah. Now on a website, the typical conversion rate, if you are crushing it, is 3%.
Wow.
So can you imagine you've got, say, a Shopify store or something like that, how much traffic you've got to send, and then the conversion is 3%. So just by having this amazing listing, you can confidently send traffic to that listing knowing that it's going to convert. And you have, on Amazon gives you all those metrics. So 30% of people coming to the listing will buy it.
How do you get your listing on the first page or the first couple of pages so people find it? Because so many times they're like, I got a listing, but it's page 100. So no one's going to find me. So what are some tips on that?
Yeah, so definitely using Amazon's listing platform. And the way it works basically is when you're doing your product research, you also then want to research the keywords. So what are the main keywords? So it's basically like Google. You're going on Amazon and just think about your own behavior. what do you normally type in if you're going to buy something, right? So we talked about this scrunchie. You're probably just going to type in, what do you think you're going to type in to find something like this?
Yeah, hair accessories,
Hair scrunchie, high.
scrunchie, ponytail holder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hair scrunchie, probably. That's normally, I would say that's probably the main keyword. And so there are tools to help you figure out what those keywords are, but you want to start with the root keyword of what you think it is. Usually what it is the main keyword. This is where people overthink things, right? And they think, oh, on Amazon, it's going to be different. It's going to be technical. It's not, it's just human behavior, which is why loads of people can do this on Amazon, because it's just intuitive. It's not technical. And so you hair scrunchie, right? And then we want to get a list of keywords that we think that have high search volume, which basically means a lot of people are typing this thing in. Right. And we want to rank our listing for those keywords. So that's number one, knowing what the keywords are. Then we're going to use something like Amazon's PPC platform. And so what you do there is you put the keywords in and you bid on those keywords. Now, when you launch a product, this is the truth of what's going to happen, is you're going to invest money up front and you're not going to see any profit, because like you said, if you're on page 100, then you're not going to get seen. So you have to pay to play.
Yeah, because everybody else is using the same keywords you are, if they're even half as smart, right? That they know that they can have the same resources to do that. So you're competing with the other 1,000 hair scrunchies.
Totally. What's going to give you the advantage is that you're going to have this amazing listing, right? So that when people land, they're going to buy. So that's number one. So that has to be done first. Then we want to be visible. So like I said, and you have to bid high for that, which is why it's important to know how much the bids are before you even launch the product. So you can actually then go, we have a launch analyzer where you plan out what the launch is and how much it's going to cost before you even put any money down on the product. And so we have some parameters, but a good parameter to work with is if you launch a product day one, week one, chances are most of the sales are going to come from the ads. It's not going to come from not paying. So 100% of your sales will come from what you're paying for. And then over time, you want 20% of the sales to come from ads and 80% to come from the organic. So you can imagine you spend, your sales are right up here, your profit is down here. And this is when people freak out, right? Because they're like, I'm not making any money. Yeah. So what we want to do is then, as we start to go up the rankings, because we've got so much visibility and people are clicking on the ads and buying the product, that starts to move up the rankings. And then more what we call organic sales start to trickle through. And so then I would say, depending on the product, looking at a timeline of between 2 to 3 months, when you're then fully in profit mode, your spend comes down and your profit is going up. But what most people do is they freak out in that period and think they're losing money and turn everything off. Yeah. So you have to
quit too early.
They quit too early. And what's really interesting about this model, I say, because I've had people come to me who have done businesses, say, they've bought a franchise, for instance, and it might have cost them, what, $200,000, $250,000. And I had one woman in particular that had done this, and she was freaking out in this first stage, and it's totally normal to do that. But I said to her, you've got a franchise model here. Yeah. How much did you pay for that? 250,000. When did you pay for that? She said 7 years ago. I was like, okay, great. Have you paid all that back? And she's, oh no, I haven't yet. I was like, right. So 7 years and you still haven't paid back the initial investment. Yeah. But yet you're expecting to reap all the initial investment on a product in the first month. Oh yeah, I didn't think of it like that. And so there's something about this online thing or online platform where people freak out. They just think they're losing because it's not tangible in the same way. And so just to get comfortable with this, and the tangibility of it is really working out the data and using the data and getting comfortable with the forecasting and the estimations. And if it's the good thing about doing that is that you already have a stake in the ground. And so you can then record what's actually happening, and then you can see where the problems are and what you need to fix and like move on from there.
You know what I love that you said early on was that I feel like you were very brave that you tried all these different things, real estate investing, day trading, and doing all these different things and willing to crash and burn at all of them, including the Amazon products. And then you reach a point where you find something that clicks and works for you and you're getting some traction, you feel like you're getting success. And then you're that hamster on the hamster wheel that you're like, okay, what's next? We talked about like the Ally McBeal. Okay, I'm in the boardroom and I'm bored, like you said. So how do you tap into keep growing and keep wanting to keep the business that you have and keep it successful, but taking it to the next level or finding the next venture for yourself? Talk us through the process of what you've been teaching clients now on how to do that.
Yeah. And so I think, what I mentioned earlier about being connected to actually what you're building. And one thing for me was when I started the Amazon business, my true connection was to my lifestyle. That was what I was doing. That was the core benefit of this business, not necessarily what the business was creating. So I created a business that allowed me to live the lifestyle that I wanted. And then I guess I got to this point. So actually through this process, I started to do workshops and stuff for Amazon sellers. And that's when I met my husband. And so that completely changed everything, which is why I'm now in Montreal. He had 2 kids from a previous marriage. And so I can't travel around. I was like, okay. So my perspective changed. So then I guess I got to this point where I was like, okay, I'm not as connected to this fitness thing as what I was when I first started. I'm not as connected to this lifestyle thing. I'm changing now. And then also, I've been doing it for a long time. I didn't realize that I was like, I guess I've got an attention span of about 7 years, I think. And I want to do something else. But I got to this point where I was like, feeling like burnout, not just from the business, but then through my coaching business. And I realized that what was happening was I was attached to the money goal, right? Because over time, what had happened is I'd kind of lost the internal goal. And then I got turned on to, I could make these things like 8 figures, 9 figures. I got swept up in this whole more situation. And the more I wanted to go for more money, the less I got, because I was exhausted. And even in the coaching model, I was doing all the marketing for that. I was doing all the emails. I was doing all the coaching. I was everything. And I got to the end of last year and I just hit this wall. Now, I guess I had to go through that to get to that point. So what we want to be doing is actually tuning into what those whispers are when they happen. And I think regardless of you're male, female, whatever, the whispers are there. It's just we ignore them. The whisper could be, I'm crying. I don't know why I'm crying right now. Or I don't have the energy. Or I'm irritated. Or I just don't want to put my laptop on. Or those are the early whispers. And then the other whispers are then should I be doing this? What am I really supposed to be doing this? And I went through that honestly for 4 years before I was like, oh, okay, I'll just crash and burn. And then I'll be like, okay, I'm forced to actually listen to these now. And so what I've been practicing and what I'm working one-to-one now with women on is noticing those whispers, but doing it in a conscious way and not in a reaction way. And honestly, the last few months, I've been just doing silent meditation, which is listening to yourself, which it can drive you crazy. And it can also, it can be frightening, right? Because all this stuff starts coming up and you're like, is that really what's inside of me right now? And so the practice of that, though, has helped me to distinguish what's real, what's not real, what's fear, what's excitement, what's anxiety, where's the fear coming from, and exploring those emotions instead of trying to push them down. Just get on with it. It's going to be fine, which I think is what we do a lot in business. We don't want to listen to what our heart is telling us. And what we were talking about is that for me, what I found was, especially through my corporate career and also even in my business, I was a walking brain, right? I was just using this brain to do everything for me, decide, make decisions, give me focus. I think in the world, in society, and certainly coming through the corporate ladder, intuition wasn't revered at all. And that was it was the gut feeling. No, we're not going to value that. We need to see the data. We need to see the logic. We need to see all of this stuff. And so I am naturally very intuitive. It's just that I've pushed that right down to bring this other side out in me because that's what was valued. So now what I've realized is, yes, the brain is brilliant. We love it, right? It carries out all the actions needed. But to be truly aligned, we need to listen to ourselves first and then use the brain, its awesomeness, to carry out the actions that we want versus getting the programs that are running in the brain to do the stuff, because that's just programming. That's just past shit. Sorry, past stuff that is running the show. So I guess that's what I figured out over the last kind of year, and just being able to understand that and be able to go, okay, that's what that is. It's not actually what I want. Yeah.
I love that. It's just bringing in that meditation and that time for yourself so that you can lead with your heart instead of leading with just your brain and making your goals really what you want, not just
not just the money.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there's a lot of fear, certainly for me and people that I'm working with. There's this fear around, I'm not going to have the money. I'm not going to pay the bills. Maybe my husband won't like me doing it, or maybe my spouse, or maybe my mum, right? Or whatever those things are. And so we stop ourselves from actually going for what we want based on these external factors that are just projections of what we think might happen versus the reality of the knowing that we have inside of ourselves.
Yeah.
And
knowing your why. I think you really have to know your why. It's okay to want the money and drive after the 7 figures or 8 figures. But know your why. Oh, because then it's going to give me financial freedom. I can do these things for my family. I can do these things for other people. It's going to change my lifestyle. And then that's what really drives you, is being in tune with that why of in your heart, of getting you where you want. And the lifestyle, like you talked about, what is the lifestyle that I want? What is going to make me happy in the long term? And sometimes it's scary to look beyond today, tomorrow, next week, and reach out and have that vision. That's why I love, like you did the vision board that changed. You're like, okay, I'm going to not just get in tune with my heart, but I'm going to put it out there and draw it and make it really in front of my face so I can look at it every day.
Yeah. And I think coming on to the next phase of that for me, and I think there's a lot of people that have been successful. So they've already got the 7-figure business or the 8-figure business, but still like, why am I not so satisfied? I think the difference is that we probably usually got to this point following other people, right? Like I did lots of courses. I put my own spin on it, but I still was following a model. That's great. It's going to get us to a certain point. But then we think that when we get to this point that we need to continue doing that. And then that's when we then start to get out of alignment, because we might be following people, something that's worked for them, but it doesn't necessarily work for you. We forget that we're these amazing humans that all have the same brain function, most of us, that allows us to be able to do whatever we want. It's just that all the programming has stopped us from allowing ourselves to feel that we can do it. And so we follow others. Yeah. And that's for me when I started to, I had all these coaches I had a billionaire coach, and I was like, okay, I'm going to follow this guy. But he was a lovely guy, but very masculine in the way that he did things. Point where I did a certain thing, and the award that he gave me was 2 brass bowls in a velvet pouch. In fact, I've got it here somewhere. Hang on.
Which means you embrace your masculinity, right? To get to your success is what it said. Yeah.
And he put it around my waist. He put it around my waist, and I had to twizzle like this to say and it was the brass bowls award for being courageous. And I was like, okay, this is weird. So so I was like, okay, I think I'm not in the right place. Even though he was a great guy and he had such success, but the way he was doing it was not what I wanted anymore. It's hard because we've been told that we can follow our dreams to a certain extent, but then we don't believe that we can do it. But the more we get connected, then we just feel amazing, and then we just go for it.
So true. You've given such great advice. We could go on probably for another hour here, but I know we have to wrap this up and bring it to an end. Tell us where we can find you at, Kirsty.
So I have a group called the Elevated Entrepreneur on Facebook. So people can join me there. And also the website is www.goteamreal.com. And also my email is kirsty@goteamreal.com. So you can find us there as well.
Awesome. We'll put that link up in the show notes for goteamreal.com, and go and follow her on Facebook in her group as well.
And I just want to say, everything that Kirsty taught in the beginning about know your target audience, know the story that you're going to tell and the benefits and stories to go with it, is exactly what we teach when you're creating and writing a book. So all those things, it's interesting. You're hearing the same thing and just applying it to different businesses. So it's know your audience, know that one person you're talking to, the benefits, not just the features of what your business offers, And it's most important, the stories that go with it and be able to tell that story. So just remember, if you're thinking about writing a book, we would love to connect with you at Elite Online Publishing. Hit that submission button on our website and we'll see if we're a good fit. We guarantee all our authors will hit #1 on Amazon or Wall Street Journal USA Today, the ones that we select to work with us. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.